Welcome to the Bold Goal Crusher podcast. For anyone looking to stop letting life get in the way and start crushing bold goals. I'm your host, Sarah Mayer, and I'm thrilled to navigate this journey with you because it's time to start boldly achieving without working double time. So let's dive in. Hello, Bold Goal Crushers. I am super excited for this episode of the podcast because I have a really exciting guest that I think you all will relate to. So, let me introduce you to Julie. She's a web designer and business coach. And since 2019, with her program, the Gutsy Mama Project, she has been giving moms around the world the tools they need to build, grow, and scale their own Squarespace design agencies from home. And I love this because so many women want it all. So, welcome to the show, Julie. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah. I love your idea of being able to grow and scale your own business from home. How did this come about for you?
It's funny, when I had my daughter, I wasn't necessarily prepared for all of the things that come with running a business and having a child. And I really had no idea what I was doing when I
Mhm.
first had my daughter, which I think most new moms feel that way. I
Yeah.
already had a business in place. I was already I had really bought into the idea of the hustle culture. I don't know if you remember 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, all of the marketing was like dudes in front of private jets and just hustle and work really hard. You could do this. So I had really fully 100% bought into that to the point where I was returning emails while I was in labor and I was back at my desk
Wow.
3 days postpartum with what was then like a more robust marketing company because I had employees and
Yeah.
I had insurance that I had to pay for them and paychecks
Yeah.
that I had to do. So I hadn't created something in my life that worked as a mother and worked as working from home. And I remember when I had to stop it, my mom was watching my daughter for me. I was lucky. I was in a meeting with a client I did not like, but I needed to
Mm.
keep, and I needed to keep happy because I needed the money.
Mhm.
And I missed my daughter rolling over for the first time, and it was brutal. Like I got my first honest, true taste of
Mhm.
what mommy guilt is. And I realized that is not who I want to be. That is not who I can be. And so I had a discussion with my husband. I remember it's August in Nashville. If you've ever been in Nashville in August, it's like blisteringly hot. And I remember sitting in my very hot car, no air conditioning on, sobbing, called my husband. I was like, something has to change. And so I made the hard decision at that time to shutter my company and try being a stay-at-home mom because I was like, okay, that's my other option. Either I'm going to be a working mom or I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. I
Yeah.
thought those were my options
Yeah.
because they don't really tell us that we've got other options.
Yeah.
And no one really talks about these things with moms. No
Yeah.
one's saying, hey, by the way, it's hard. This stuff is really hard. And we get it. Like everyone
Yeah.
gets it. We're all going through the same thing right now. And so I shuttered my business and I tried being a stay at home mom. And it was great. At first, it was like me and my baby, and we're having a good time, and it's play dates and baby music class is like, okay, this is great.
Yeah.
Then a few months later, I started to realize, okay, there are whole groups of people who don't know my name. I'm Roxy's mom and I'm Jeff's wife.
Mhm.
And for my whole life, I've been working since I was 16 years old, running a business, head of marketing for other companies and doing all these things. And all of a sudden, the awesome badass that I used to be no longer was there. And if I wasn't a Julie Moe badass CEO, who was I?
Yeah.
I was Roxy's mom and Jeff's wife. And that was it. So I had this like massive identity loss. All of a sudden, I was not bringing in any of the money into our bank accounts, which was super weird for me. So I went from like mommy guilt to mommy money guilt and loss of identity. And I was rescued one day by a call from a friend of a friend. And he said, hey, Mike tells me you're doing something with websites or something. I like the look of these Squarespace websites. I'm in Nashville, so my accent's getting a little thick. I like the look of these Squarespace websites. You think you can build a couple of them for my clients? I was like, yep,
Oh my
absolutely.
goodness.
Never built a
I love
Squarespace
it.
website before, but I was like, I'm smart.
I'll figure it
Can't be
out.
that hard. I'll figure it out, and I want the money. And I
Mhm.
realized, hey, I can do this. And what's really funny is I look back on those first websites now, and man, they were terrible. But I got paid and I
Yep.
made money. So I thought to myself, okay, this is something that I can do. This is something I can do and still take care of my kid. Like, even still, like, to pick up my daughter from school every day. We have our time together, and she'll tell you, like, this is the best part of my whole day.
Yeah.
And knowing that's true, and I still get to work. And she says, Mom, she's 5, almost 6 now. And she's, Mom, do you think you can teach me how to build websites someday? I was like, yeah, honey.
Yeah,
I
she probably could
absolutely
build one
can.
right now, the way these kids with
Yeah.
technology.
So that's how I started building Squarespace. That's how I found myself, through building websites. And that's how I help moms do the same thing.
I love your story. And I think so many people still are buying into the hustle culture, even though that phase has passed a little and people have really talked about combating that hustle culture. But I think so many people get caught up in and I talk about this a lot. They get caught up in the feeling of I always have to be productive. So even if I'm
Yeah.
not working on the most important things, as long as I'm doing a lot and checking a lot off my list, then I am successful and I am productive. And unfortunately, many times what the hustle culture has promoted is actually busy work. People aren't
Yeah.
working on what's the most important anymore. They're just working to work. And I
And
just
not
know
really,
yeah, go
and
ahead.
taking into account like what your real priorities are.
Yeah.
And like, my daughter is obviously a priority. My marriage is a priority. And I bought into that idea too, where, oh, taking care of myself, is
Mhm.
that a priority? So I think a lot of people, if they're taking care of themselves, they're not doing something. I actually had a mom say something like that to me recently where she's like, oh, you do that and that? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, those are all things that I
Yeah.
do. So
Yeah.
she's like,
Yeah, and putting
oh,
ourselves last was always the thing.
yeah.
Yeah. And
And I
I
think it's a real problem for moms these days.
yeah. And I also think one of the things that's really interesting that you talked about is that nobody's talking about the options for moms. It's either you
Yeah.
work or you stay home,
Yeah.
and that's it.
That's all I thought that I could have. And
Mhm.
no one's talking about it. No, either you put your kids in daycare and you spend all of your money on daycare,
Yeah.
thousands of dollars every month on daycare, or you stay home.
Yeah.
And those are great options. And I'm not saying that either one of those is terrible.
Yeah.
Because if you're a mom and you have this like wildly fulfilling career and it makes you happy and fulfills you in that way, and your kids are still happy and still taken care of and still fed and all these things,
Yeah.
fantastic. And I
Yeah.
know moms who love being stay-at-home moms. That is their thing. Their kids are not going into daycare until they're 5
Yeah.
years old, and they love it. It's their joy and wonder, and they love doing that. And that's fantastic too. It's just neither of those options worked for me. So I
Yeah.
had to find and build another option where I didn't have mommy money guilt and I didn't have mommy guilt. So I knew there
Yeah.
had to be a space in between. And I'm lucky, like, one phone call changed my life. And
And
I'm still friends with him and I still build websites for him. So it's okay. I must be doing something right.
I love it. And
Yeah,
you really got to keep and reshape what your identity was.
absolutely. And I always thought I was creative. So I get to scratch a creative itch that I never got to scratch before.
Yeah.
And I get to do things that actually help people. So it's like scratching all these really cool
Mhm.
things for me that I never got to do before. So, like,
Yeah.
I get to be creative. I get to help people with their business. I get to help my web design clients. I get to help moms. So I turned into something and built something that I didn't know that I needed and I didn't know that I wanted
Mhm.
until I really jumped in and did it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one of the cool things too is that you were able to build this new business your way. I work with a lot of clients who leave their 9 to 5 because they want freedom. They want to spend time with their kids. I've heard a lot of horror stories about the carpool line, but they want to be in the carpool line and pick up their kids every day.
Yeah.
Yet they build a business that does not allow them that freedom. So
Yeah.
they're falling asleep with their laptops, they're paying
Mm.
somebody to pick up their kids. So tell me, how did you go about making sure that when you built this new thing, you didn't end up in the same hustle culture, just in a different seat?
Sure. It wasn't easy at first.
Mhm.
I set boundaries. If you get a proposal from me, my hours are on there and how we're going to be communicating is written in there. My
Mhm.
hours are from 9 to 3, Monday through Friday. And I
Mm.
say why. It's really important for me to keep these hours.
Yeah.
And really, it's important because my clients I'm a web designer. There are no massive web design emergencies, right? Your site might go down, but okay, I'll fix that. But
Yeah.
it's not gonna be my fault. I build in Squarespace. So someone at Squarespace is going to be working on it while your site is down, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And I chose a profession that doesn't require me to be up late at night. I come from the music business. I used to have to go to shows at night and things like that. And I don't have to do that anymore because it's web design.
Yeah.
It's not like anyone's gonna be like, hey, I need this website in one day and you have to work 24 hours to make it happen.
Yeah.
Web design. So you'd be like, okay, here's my timeline. This is what's going to happen. Please pay
Mm.
your deposit when you sign the contract and we'll get moving from there.
Yeah.
You get to set that time schedule and you get to choose who you're working with. I remember once I was on a client call. My daughter's home with me, and I'm very open about being a mother. My kid sits, if she's home or she's sick and I've got a client call and I can't get out of it or it's really important, I let them know. I'm like, hey, my daughter might be popping on this call. Moms with kids or the kids are always popping up on our coaching calls, and that's
Yep.
okay. But I was on a
Yep.
call with a client and he said, there was a time when you would have been fired for having your kid on the call. And I looked at him, I said, I would never work with someone who would feel
Mm.
that way about having kids because we're moms and
Yeah.
you want moms, that's okay. Like, you
Yeah.
want moms to work for you, we're smart, we know what we're doing, we're great multitaskers. You want us to work for you, then you better accept that.
Yeah. I
So
love during COVID, there was some newscaster who everybody was working from home, and his son, like, opened the door, and his door was, like, in the back of his Zoom background, and he
Mhm.
opened the door and announced, "I went poopy on the potty," and then shut the door, and it was like, he just went with it. But I think about that with men and women, how it's so different. That would have been like, "Hey, that's my kid," with a woman, but he went with it, but a lot of men would have been, like, mortified.
I think the other side of that coin is everyone would think, "Oh, what a wonderful father he is."
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
we as women, it's, "Can't you control your child?"
yeah, yeah.
Like, the other side of that coin is it's adorable when it happens to a dad, but is
True.
it
Yeah,
adorable when it happens to a woman?
yeah,
And I think going back to your question, I think the other way that I work motherhood in and chose this career is I choose the clients who I want to work with.
mhm, yeah,
And like I found that first one dream client and I reverse engineered that client. Like, how
mm,
did I get them? How do I find more people just like
yeah,
them? And so I turned it into a business where I get to work with the people that I really love and the people that I don't love, I don't work with.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how did you set boundaries with your clients, which I love, and you
Mhm.
decided those hours? How do you set boundaries with yourself? Because even though 3 o'clock rolls around and you may not be talking to a client anymore,
Yeah.
and you have a deadline coming up, and you're like, oh, I have some time tonight, nothing going on. How do you keep those commitments to yourself?
I keep those commitments to myself. My computer, for the most part, will stay at my desk. Like, I have a dedicated space. You are looking at it on this
Yeah.
Zoom call right now. This is my dedicated workspace. And very often, my computer will stay here all weekend long.
Hmm.
Um, and that's not to say that occasionally after I put my daughter to bed that I've got an idea or I'm having trouble sleeping, my
Yeah.
insomnia kicks in and I might get some work done, which is fine. For the most part, this is my dedicated workspace. The rest of my house is my dedicated life space. And very rarely do they meet.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be building any websites for my phone. So,
Oh,
and you know
wow.
what?
Yeah.
If a client, oftentimes most of my clients do not call. It's very much an email thing. But occasionally a client will call and I don't answer the phone.
Yeah.
We
And that's
have
okay.
Yeah, it's
That's okay.
100% okay.
Yeah.
And I'll shoot them an email next day, be like, hey, per your call yesterday, here's what's going on. And I've never really had anyone have a massive problem with it. And I think that's why web design is such a good gig for moms,
Yeah.
is it's because you can set your timeline. If you need a longer timeline with someone, you just set a longer timeline. If you're only
Yeah.
working 4 hours a day, then you have a little longer timeline.
Yeah.
And I find most people are okay with it. Not only that, nobody knows how long it takes to build a website.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
It's so dependent too on the client getting you the
yeah.
stuff. You could probably build it a lot quicker if you had everything day one, but a
Yeah.
lot of times it comes piecemeal or they think they want this and then you design it. They're like, oh, I don't want to say that on my website anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, great. Here's
Yeah.
my hourly rate to fix that for you.
Yeah.
Because that is
And
above and beyond our agreement.
and I love that you are so matter of fact about your boundaries. They're not, "Oh, I'm really sorry, but this is I have to charge because this is my
No,
hourly rate."
this is my hourly rate. Because here's the thing. No one would have a problem with a dude
Yeah.
doing.
Yep.
And
No one.
so there would be no problem with a man saying, these are my hours, these are my rates. And
Yeah.
I find so oftentimes with moms, they're like, I was on a coaching call with one of the moms that I work with in the Gutsy Mama Project yesterday, and I was helping her rework the copy for her own website. She's
Yeah.
just about to launch her own website. And I don't want anyone to think down on me because I'm just a solopreneur. We were going back and forth between using the word I do this and we do this. I was like,
Mm.
do you have anyone working for your business? She's no. I'm like, then say hi.
Yeah.
It's honest.
Yeah.
She's, I don't want anyone looking down on me because I'm just a one woman show here. I was like, would you want to work with anyone who would look down on you because of that? No. I was like, then say I. It's
Yeah.
honest. It's real.
And then they won't work with you and you won't work with them and you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's just a difference. I'm very matter of fact about these things. I try to teach the moms that I work with to be very
Mhm.
matter of fact, be upfront. Be honest. Occasionally, I have to cancel a meeting because my kid is sick or she'll fall down at school and she's got a big knot on her head and I've got to take her to the emergency room. You know what? Life happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people need to understand that life happens. And we're moms. And a lot of these things, when it comes to our kids, it comes down to us.
Yeah. And so you went from building your business where you're building websites, and then
Mhm.
now you've created this whole new thing where you help moms do the same thing or build their
Yeah.
own thing. How did that come about?
So I saw the idea and there are other people who do it, but there's no one who's doing it specifically for mothers. And being a mother while working is a very different thing than being a single woman or being
Mhm.
childless and working. It creates a different level of stress
Yeah.
and like creating a safe space for moms where either A, like I said, their kid, they can have a kid on the boob on a coaching call and no one's going to just think twice about it.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a kid screaming in the background. Yesterday, a kid pulled down like a shelf on them in the middle of the call. So we're like, nope, we're fine. Do your
Yeah.
thing. We'll be back. We're here when you need us. And
Yeah.
creating that safe space and community just for moms, I was like,
Mhm.
that's what we need. That's what I
Yeah.
needed when I was getting started. And so
Yeah.
that's why I did it.
I love it. And so how do women work with you then in this? Like, how do they find you? How do they and what can they
Yeah. If
kind of
you are interested in being a mom who has a community, has friends, who wants to build websites and build something, even if you're a mom who's got another business and just wants to learn how to launch your own website really well, you can find me and more information on the Gutsy Mama Project at bagutsymama.com.
Ooh, I love it. So you have probably seen it all. What is your best story of what's going on in the background as somebody's like trying to work or get things done? What's your best story on that one?
Like I said, all the mom stuff, like I've seen dogs pulling kids' diapers off and like all of these things going on in the background. I'll be like, there's something going on back there. You might want to take care of
Check
that.
on that.
Or sometimes I do have to have moms tell me, like, hey, my kid's in the room. So I'll be like, okay, moms, language check. There's children on this call
Yeah.
just to make it suitable for children. Keep all of our calls PG because occasionally it's just the moms and moms show up just for the juice. They're like, I don't have any web design questions. I just needed to talk this out with some other moms.
Mm.
Or if we do a wine call, okay, everybody, grab your drink. Let's just get it all out there. So yeah.
I love it. I was on a Zoom call in 2020, the pandemic, and one of
Mhm.
the moms was telling me about her like most horrific calls. And the way she had set up, I actually think the worst job during the pandemic was being a kindergarten teacher with little kids, because
Oh my
can you
gosh.
imagine? Anyway, so this mom was telling me that her daughter, the way she set up her Zoom was that she put her kids right behind her on computers, and she had 3 kids, all under the age of 10. And so that she could see what was going on behind her while she was on Zoom calls. And one time she's on a call, she's on mute, and her daughter, a boy in the class, said, "I wanna see your underwear." And the teachers, "No, we're not gonna see
Oh my
anybody's
gosh.
underwear." And then,
Oh
like,
my goodness.
all the cameras went off, like, the teacher, like, acted really quickly, and then these little kids were like, "No, I wanna see the underwear. What kind of underwear? Why did you turn off the videos?" "I gotta go."
Oh my gosh.
But
I
it
can't
was
imagine.
really funny, and I just think about how moms, I haven't had any, physical children, but I've had foster kids. But I just think about how moms are able to really be in one meeting, but think about 3 other meetings going on
Yeah.
behind them, and how not only incredibly difficult that is, but how cool and inspiring that is.
I think that's why I feel like in every, like, job I've ever like, I would have had jobs, like, actual office
Yeah.
jobs. I always wound up being, like, hired for one job and doing 6 jobs. "Oh,
Yeah.
Julie, you're our IT person here now,"
You're really
you're
good at
the
that.
person
Here's another
you're
job.
the photographer, you're all these things. You
Yeah.
end up doing several jobs, and I think it's just because we as women
Mm.
are so naturally good at that. You can't just have one job. I came, like I said, music industry for the last 15 years in and around it. And the women are always the ones who have several jobs within the
Yeah.
company. And I think we're just naturally good at all those things. But when you truly give yourself the time to focus and get spectacular at one thing,
Mhm.
wow,
Yeah.
so great.
Yeah.
Can
I
be
love it.
so great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just love this conversation because I think you're doing so much for women to show them that they can truly, I don't want to use the term have it all. They don't need to have it
No.
all. They can build it the way that they want it. So it is their all
Sure.
and everything that they've ever wanted, but they don't need to choose. They
Right.
can choose to build it the way that works for them
Yeah,
and their
like if
family.
you wanna work with 1 client a month, great. If
Mhm.
you wanna work with 5 clients a month, great. If you wanna
Yeah.
just make an extra $5,000 a month, great.
Yeah.
If you wanna scale an agency and have 5 people working for you and make $50,000 a month, great. And you
Yeah.
can choose to do those things. And I think we as women just need to tell ourselves, "You have a choice."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. So I love that you've started the Gutsy Mama Project, and I'll link that for everyone in the show notes so they can find out more about it and work with you, because what you're doing is so important out
Oh,
there.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure being with you today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show. And remember, bold goal crushers, you truly can crush your goals and everything that gets in the way without working double time, because it's not about working more. So let's get to it. Thank you for tuning in to the Bold Goal Crusher podcast, where we crush goals and everything that gets in the way. I look forward to seeing you crush your goals this year.